And I'd like to welcome two people tonight. So those of you that have been here before know that Janet Johnson has been filling in for us and helping us out. And today is the first day for our new community service rep, Ana Lopez. And so Ana, for those of you that knew Brandon Findley, she took that position. Brandon moved on to the Greater Wichita Partnership. So we want to thank Janet for her help with this. I'm sure she's as relieved as anybody that Ana is starting. So, but if you all would welcome Ana. Ana, you want to just give a little bit of your background so people know a little bit about you?
Yeah, of course. So I've been with the city of Wichita for about 3 years now. I was previously working with planning department, and then not too long ago I was in the mayor and city council office. I'm a resident of District 6, so I'm very glad to be representing District 6. I've worked with Cindy Clayton for the last 6 months, and I'm very happy and very excited to continue working with her now as a community service representative for District 6.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right, so let's have the DAB members introduce themselves and start over with Linda.
Linda Matthew, love to see the park neighborhood. Gregory Boyakin, love to see the park neighborhood.
Angela Martinez.
Bill Longnecker, Sunflower.
Lisa Leary Senior, Indian Hills, Riverside.
John, your turn.
Oh, Sean Rojas, Indian Hills, Riverbend.
All right, thank you. And just to remind those of you that maybe have not been at a DAB before, our process is that when you want to speak on something, if you'll stand up and address the board, state your name. My role is to listen. I do not vote. The DAB members are advisory to council, so they vote, and that's the vote that counts tonight. We are on Facebook Live, right? We're on Facebook Live tonight, so just so you're aware of that. And then I think before we begin, I need a motion to move the Riverfront Legacy Master Plan before the zoning case. So are you guys okay with that? Can we get a motion for that? So, second, thank you. All in favor of moving new business item 6 before item 5, please say aye. All opposed, same sign. All right, thank you. All right, approval of minutes. We have to do the August 5th and the August 21st. We did not have a quorum at on the August 21st meeting, so we need to approve the August 5th minutes also. Any corrections, changes, questions? Not, I would entertain a motion.
Second.
And seconded. Okay. To approve both the August 5th and the August 21st minutes. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Also unanimous. Okay, thank you. Police.
I'm Officer Nate Sweetall out of Patrol South. I represent the downtown area of District 6. I talked to Officer Carlson, who's in charge of the Old Town area. He actually didn't have any updates as far as crime changes in the downtown area. The community policing area has been working extensively in the downtown core area in regards to some homeless-related issues. We have our homeless outreach team has went out and done outreach in that area, try to get some voluntary compliance with camping and trespassing. And then we also had additional officers, community policing in the Broadway corridor come in and address criminal behavior. Some of the complaints being that of drinking in public, drug selling, drug using, urinating and defecating in public. And so those issues were addressed as well. Tomorrow we're actually having a homeless advisory committee meeting with a lot of the businesses in the downtown area because homelessness isn't necessarily an issue that law enforcement has to address alone. It's also a community issue, and so we're trying to get community members involved. Number one, to bounce ideas off of them, and also to gain feedback on what they'd like to see moving forward. So hoping that'll be a productive meeting. We'll try to get some information that comes out of that. On some better news or good news, myself and Mayor Longwell are going to be traveling to D.C. next month. The federal government is bringing us down to interview both of us and what we're doing here in Wichita in regards to our homeless outreach team. You know, taking a a softer approach and trying to help our homeless get in the streets or get into shelters and off the streets and into permanent transitional housing, but also addressing the community concerns as well. So we're hoping that'll be a productive meeting while we're up there as well. So, do you have any questions for the board? Yes.
Under the bridge on Amadon, on the north side of the bridge, did anybody do anything with that person's living under there?
Which 21st and then
21st and Amadon, just south of there, on the north side of the river, underneath the bridge.
1900 North End.
oh, the 1900s.
Yeah.
No, I didn't know about that, but we can put on our list of going right there. So that's been a hot spot in the past. There was a homeless veteran actually that was under there for years. And we helped him get into a transitional housing program. He's no longer homeless, so that's his old place. So I'll put that down on my notes here. I got any other questions for me? Thank you. Appreciate it.
You'll let us know how your trip goes.
Yes, we'll do.
All
We'll
right.
report back. Thank you.
Officer Whitner, thank you for joining us tonight.
Absolutely. I'm Officer Winder for Patrol West Community Policing. For the most part, the only problem we're having in the Riverside area is small number of auto thefts, just cars getting broken into. Biggest thing we're seeing is people are leaving items of value in those cars. We do have reminders put up in various places and talk about it at meetings. So just try not to leave anything of value in a vehicle. The other thing we're having is currently auto thefts are up for the previous month. About half of those incidents though had keys either left in the vehicle or the person who took it had access to the keys. So that's something else to keep in mind. Yes, it's hot out, don't leave your car running. And come winter time, it'll be a small problem again, but don't leave your car running during the winter time either. The only other incident we had in the Riverside area was over on Amadon. We did have the SWAT call out last month due to an incident that occurred over there. That individual has been arrested and he is getting some of the care that several family members believe he needs to help remedy that situation from occurring again in the future. Does anybody have any questions that pertain to Patrol West? All right. Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Thank you. And Officer Gerald.
And I'm Officer Steve Gerald, representing Patrol North. Couple of things, I'm gonna piggyback on him. I sound like a broken record when I talk about leaving stuff in your car. Riverside, North Riverside, it's constantly on Facebook. I left my backpack in the car and somebody took it. Don't leave stuff in the car. If you leave it, they will look for it, and if it's there, there's a good chance it's gonna come up missing. Please don't make yourself a victim in that. With school starting, we're running into our normal issues that we have at the beginning of school, and a lot of that has to do with parking. There are no parking zones around schools for a reason, and that's partially to protect the kids, or mainly to protect the kids. Please look at signs. I know I've been at Woodland Elementary 7 times in the last 15 days, including weekends. And we are starting to write tickets. We've been talking. We're gonna remind you, when you see the same car 3 times within 15 days, there's an issue. And it's gonna become a costly issue for them. Also, put it out to your neighborhoods. If you're picking up kids from an elementary school, since you can't park maybe across the street, don't park in the middle of the road. That's happening and blocking buses. Just sitting there and waiting literally 3 to 5 minutes. Why are my kids coming? Okay, great. Have them go somewhere else. I try not to be rude about it, or we try not to be rude about it, but we will be a little bit. You're going to have to move. Otherwise, you're going to look at a citation for blocking the road. So those are the big things. Well, some of the big things. We have had a couple of shootings in Patrol North. Yesterday we had one. I can't give a lot, but it went up Market Street from 21st. If anyone, or if you hear of anyone, or please put it out there, if anyone has information, please contact us or contact Crime Stoppers. We believe that there is some video out there that we have not gotten our hands on yet, and we would like to get that. I'm leaving here to go try and pull one of them right now from a neighbor.
What time of day was it?
About 5:25 yesterday evening. 2 vehicles, and from the one video I've seen, they were probably between 60 and 70 miles an hour at market in a residential.
I already wondered, if there any-
So, Could have been very, very bad, very quick. One person did end up getting hurt, but we could have also had an accident. We could have had a child run out in front, et cetera, from the speeding up. So, if there's video, please get that to us or contact us. I'll be glad to come out. You can call me at the station at 350-3400 and I'll get back with you, reference it. The last thing, and I debated whether or not I was gonna do this or not, this will be my last DAB meeting as a community policing officer. You hadn't heard?
I have not heard.
That's a month-old news, girl. Even Janet knew. Effective October 5th, I'm being promoted to detective. I don't know which section yet, but I'm going up. It's kind of bittersweet. Something that I kind of want to do to be able to continue to move up, but I love the position I'm currently in. So I'm sad about leaving, but it's the only way to continue to keep advancing is to do this. So a little over 11 years in North Riverside, or I'm 48 feet, but North Riverside, and I'm leaving behind a lot of friends in the neighborhood.
Obviously, my talk to the chief didn't do any good.
Probably not. Probably not.
So you're supposed to stay here.
I guess you should have called me. You know, the last council member found out I was going to test and actually called me and said, "Can you wait one more year, please?" Until she was done. So I guess she didn't give you that advice. So no, I will be leaving. I don't know, from time to time, detectives, I mean, we'll be out, we'll be at impact meetings. We'll be sometimes at DAB meetings, very rarely, some at neighborhood association meetings, so we'll see each other. But like I said, kind of bittersweet. I've been in community policing, Janet knows, because I was out east in it too. I've been in community policing since January of 2004. So 15 and a half years, which doesn't sound real long until I realized that neither one of my daughters, one's a senior, one's a junior, have ever known their dad to do anything but community policing. Then it kind of put it into perspective. And they're a little nervous. They're like, "You're gonna be home at 5:20?" My youngest daughter told me, she said, "Dad, we always wait till like 15 minutes before you're home to do the chores. When you text and say we're on our way, we do the chores. We don't have that much time now after school." So there'll be some changes for the family, hopefully positive changes. But I'm looking forward to it. Thank you all for letting me work up here. And I mean it when I say thank you for letting me work up here. Thanks for working with me and helping me try and make our neighborhood safe.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Any questions for Officer Gerald?
Yes. Yes, your son already knows, or your Angel already knows. If you haven't, did he told you?
No.
Angel already knows. I called him personally.
Okay. Well, I was gonna say from Broadway to maybe 17th on Arkansas, not Broadway, I'm sorry, 21st to 17th. I think somebody probably needs to sit out there like daily.
Okay.
Nightly, I should say. And they're just speaking up and down that street. I think they ran over one of the railings
At
at
school?
St.
That happened this morning?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, they have it on video. It happened about 3 o'clock this morning.
Yeah, my husband.
On our campus?
Yes, it's terrible. I mean, so fast.
It's easy.
There is a lot of trucks and they squeal out and all kinds of savage.
It's really bad by Irving Elementary as well too, obviously.
On Market,
On Market Street, yeah.
Market has been a nightmare for
Years, I know. Years.
part of that is because we have long stretches without stop signs. And one of my favorite stories over my 11 years in this, or in 15 years in doing this, we were discussing it at a neighborhood meeting one night, and a citizen had already researched, and he wanted to do a hologram of a small child that there'd be some sort of a pressure point in the pavement, or he would do it from his house, of a hologram of a child running out in front of traffic to try and slow people down. I love the thought, but we're not going to enjoy working the accident when they run into a tree trying to avoid this. So it didn't happen. But I'll put it on there again.
No, no worries, appreciate it.
Any other questions for Gerald?
Well,
Yeah,
in terms
Don't
of
do that.
stopping traffic or parking when they're waiting for school kids to come out at St. Pat's, they're lining up down the street.
St. Pat's is a very unique one in that I don't know where to put them.
I agree, but I can't get out, you can't move down our Kansas at that time, they're
And
waiting,
because
they're
of their
parking.
location, there's not a good place for them to sit off.
They have a lot of parking in the back there.
They do, and it gets,
Outside.
but they do it in a where they weave all around. They don't actually pull in the parking stall. They weave all the way around and then come out the other side. And I think if they parked in a parking stall, they'd probably be trapped for 20 minutes. And I think that's why they
Outside, let
don't.
everybody else be trapped for 20 minutes.
Yes, I made the mistake the other day of trying to go to Woodland Elementary, was running a little bit late, and got stuck in the St. Pat's traffic. I don't know the good answer to that one.
Yeah, St. Pat's, I don't know, it's North High at the same time.
North High at the same time, so you have all of a bunch of the North High kids coming up Arkansas from north at the same time that people are trying to get out of St. Pat's, and it makes it a kind of a little nightmare there. People have suggestions on where to put them. I will say this, I know we're live, I shouldn't do this. For some reason, parents don't seem to think that their middle school kids or high school kids can walk to their car. They think that they have to be picked up in front of the front door of the school, and trying to educate parents in the fact that even a 4th or a 5th grader, they can walk half a block from the school to get in the car. And parents get very, very angry when you suggest that. Very, very angry with you. How dare you would suggest my child would have to walk? And I don't know where we got away from that. Because I always tell them, "Hey, park in the next block. There's plenty of parking right in the next block." Or like St. Pat's, you can park on 18th Street, you can park on 19th Street,
Real big parking lot.
you can park on 20th Street,
Yeah.
but will not do it. So maybe I can suggest that they lock their child's phone until they walk to the car, and then it works, and maybe that'll encourage the child to do it. So parking around schools, I mean, it's kind of a nightmare, and trying to figure it all out. Yes.
At Emerson Elementary, there's parents who have walking buses. It might be something that one of the PTA leaders could implement.
Okay.
Where it's normally an adult, and then they have half a dozen to 10 children following them.
Okay.
And they're called walking buses.
I can throw that out, especially like at Woodland. I can throw this suggestion right now, the first couple weeks, besides the parking issue, we're trying to get parents to actually use crosswalks with their kids because they're running out in front of traffic with their children. And we're trying to prevent an accident from happening. So, but I can talk to Woodland. I'll talk to the principal here in a few minutes. I'll just text her and have her contact Emerson and see how they did that.
We walk to and from school.
Okay.
Friend of mine lives on North Clarence by Pleasant Valley, and they have a problem there with the parking in progress. There's no curbs or anything on that street. I don't know about the parking at the school, whether there's any or not.
And I see it at others, Irving. I see it at Woodland now. And I would have never thought to have parked in someone else's driveway and walk away from my car. Blows me away, the concept of it. And how we fix all that, I don't. Once they park in someone else's driveway, technically they're on private property, so I can't just cite them. for illegal parking. And we can't tow the vehicle, the homeowner, so if it's your house, you have to call the tow truck and pay the tow truck to tow their vehicle off. So it's a kind of a little bit of a mess with that. So you would think parking at schools would be a very small issue, a very easy issue, and it is not. You were with me when we dealt with the one at Colvin, when we finally talked them into a new parking lot. We had a fire truck get stuck on the street during school dismissal because they couldn't get through. Remember that?
Yep.
Long time ago. So anyway, unless there's anything else, I'm gonna get out of here. Thank you. Thanks for the memories.
We'll see you around. You're not off the hook. All
Bye,
right.
Steve.
All right. Fire, you guys are up.
Yes, hello. Good evening. Captain Casey Ostchild. I'm taking over for Captain Rodriguez in Station 3B. Recently moved to Station 5.
Oh.
So I'll try to fill some big shoes. I actually had an opportunity to work for Captain Rodriguez and taught me a lot to get me to the point where I am now. So what I can tell you about District 6 from the fire department standpoint is we've had 53 fire incidents. The one that is of note was 300 block of North Main. I'm going to refer to some notes and cheat a little bit. So 300 block of North Main was the 3-story white building on the corner. Extensive fire throughout the attic area of the building. It's being converted to apartments. So not really sure what caused at this point, but hit $1.5 million damage. So pretty extensive fire. A lot of that is structural engineering and things like that. They have to research, make sure it's all brought back up to code. But that's your largest dollar loss fire, and really the only one to note in District 6. Roughly 515 medical alarms in the district. So there's a frequent calls for service, and they've been doing a great job answering those calls. What we're coming up on here in the next month, October is obviously going to be Fire Prevention Month. So we're working on getting the message disseminated out through the ranks, trying to get everybody prepared for going to the schools, making the normal contacts we make for fire prevention. Something that I stress to people when I go out and make a fire prevention message is a campaign that the Underwriter Laboratories put together with the National Institute of Standards Technology, Close Before You Doze. Because a lot of us, especially with kids, I have 3 kids of my own, it's hard to convince them that, hey, we're going to sleep with the door closed. So it buys you a lot of time. If you go to the UL website, you can actually find links, and there's actually a Close Before You Doze campaign. If you Google it online, they have some very informative videos. They're really hard to make these interactive, make them cutting edge to where people really want to pay attention to them. It's going to buy you, it can buy you upwards of 3 minutes. Just closing your door, keeping the smoke out. Temperatures of 1200 degrees in the hallway are 100 degrees behind a closed hall floor door to bed. So really emphasizing that. Obviously, we'll also go with make sure you're checking your batteries, your smoke detectors. Any smoke detector that's over 10 years old needs to be replaced. Carbon dioxide detectors, looking at 7 years for replacement. So good opportunity to really take advantage of paying attention to what you have in your home and having a plan to get out, obviously, if you do that. I've been really surprised because my days off, I substitute teach, go into classrooms. Forever we preach this message of have a way out, get out, stay out. You'd be surprised how many children I talk to. Hey, do you have a plan? You go, no. So we have a lot of outreach, but it's got to be supported at home. So something to kind of take away, and I really want to put that forward. Other than that, we did have a deployment to assist with Hurricane Dorian, and that involved our new command bus. That was a great purchase to assist not only people within our region, but nationally. So its deployment went to try to assist in the Jacksonville, Florida area. They weren't needed, they're back home now, but we're glad we have the opportunity to put that out. So with that, I'll open up to any questions you might have.
Questions for Lieutenant? Thank you for
Thank
joining
you.
us this
Guys, have a
evening.
good evening.
Cheers. Thank you all. Okay, so this is the time for public agenda. We don't have any scheduled items, but if there's anyone here who would like to speak on something that's not on the agenda, this would be the time. Did you want to speak? So we'll give you 5 minutes.
I'll keep it brief.
Okay, so you come up here to the
Oh,
board.
okay, fair enough.
Name, please.
Hi.
Thank you.
My name is Martin Garcia. I'm an assistant manager at Cochran Mortuary and Crematory, 1411 North Broadway. Been a lifelong resident of this district, essentially. You know, went to school here, graduated here, and aside from my time in the military, I've always been here. I'm also a member of the oldest VFW here in town. But the one thing I really wanted to address essentially was seeing what was going to happen with the federal opportunity dollars that are coming our way and everything. Brandon, I'm sorry, I'm drawing a blank. on
Finley.
everything. No. I'm talking about our councilman in District
Oh,
Johnson.
Brandon Johnson.
Brandon Johnson, yes, thank you. Brandon, I saw you posted something about the federal opportunity dollars. I wanted to see how it's going to be disseminated in the neighborhood of when we were going to tackle that agenda, because I've also talked to some of the other business owners on my corridor around there on North Broadway and stuff like that. And they're all a little interested in seeing what's going to happen in the area. And also, other thing I've kind of been mulling around with some of the folks is an overpass for the railroad tracks over there on 21st Street. I mean, people, it bottlenecks everything there. None of the businesses get frequented like they should. And I think we're just kind of isolating the whole corridor right there, all the way to the McAdams neighborhood. So, you know, I mean, it's an issue. But I just wanted to address that and everything. But hopefully, if you guys could send some info my way with my email over there, and you know, some things that I can talk to some of my post members at VFW 112 as well too, and everything.
So you're talking about the opportunity zones?
Yes, opportunity zone program and everything.
Okay.
Coming up here. Not necessarily Riverfront Legacy. And
Right, I know
everything,
what you're
but
talking about.
yeah.
So that is a federal program, but the dollars don't come from the federal government. They come
Gotcha.
from investors who
Okay.
want to invest in those opportunity zones. So you,
What role will this council play any role in any way that money's allocated in the neighborhoods and
it
where?
probably, no,
Okay.
because the investors decide how they're going to invest that money. Now,
Okay.
we may see projects that are part of an opportunity zone. For example, the first one that's been financed right now that I know of is the fireworks project, which is an old fire station it's in District 1 in Brandon Johnson's district. And again, private developers putting money into that
Okay.
project, and then they get some tax benefits from doing that.
All right. Just
But
being
if
a
you want
novice to all of this, and there. Oh, I'm sorry.
But if you want to know a little bit more about it, there is, if you go to wichita.gov website and you go to our economic development page and scroll down through there, there's a section called Opportunity Zones, and it does give you information about opportunity zones and those in Wichita. And then the Greater Wichita Partnership has a prospectus on their website also. For all the opportunity zones in Wichita.
Gotcha.
So that might be helpful.
Too.
Yeah,
Okay.
that would be helpful.
All right. Very good.
All
Okay.
right.
Thank you. I appreciate
Thank you
it.
for
Thanks.
joining us this evening. Okay, anybody else here to speak on public agenda? All right, I think we are ready then for our Riverfront Legacy folks.
So make sure this is locked up.
Clicker doesn't want to work.
It's not cooperating. Oh, gee. I'm gonna go right now. Okay, it's gonna work for you, Andrew.
Good evening. I'm Gary Plummer. I work for the Wichita Regional Chamber of Commerce, and with me tonight is Susie Santo, who is the president of Visit Wichita, and we're two coalition partners who are working on this Riverfront Legacy Master Plan. And so thank you for giving us a few minutes tonight to tell you more about this project. And maybe we can take some questions if your agenda allows that. Blue area that you see on the map is the actual plan area. Basically, it's the east side of the Arkansas River, all the way from Douglas to Kellogg, and between the river itself and Maine. And it includes the current Century 2 Performing Arts Center, and also the Convention Center. The southern part of the project area is more privately held property, Waterwalk, is that the correct name for that area? One of the reasons why we got involved in this project was because of the progress that's happening on the west side of the river. A lot of exciting things there, including AAA baseball, the Riverfront Village, other improvements to the Lano area. We felt like the timing was perfect to try to do something that would have a generational impact, probably multi-generational impact in our region. And that's why a group of private and public sector folks got together. We raised about $800,000 to do this master plan. And 3/4 of that money came from the private sector. 1/4 came from a combination of two investments, one by the city and one by Citrus County. And we felt like we needed to do this right, make sure we had a vision for the area that I showed you on the last slide, and make sure that we had a lot of community input into that process. And so we are just getting started. We launched this about a month ago. I think it was July 31st at the Boathouse. We had a public launch. Part of this presentation is going to talk about some additional opportunities for public input in this entire process. I'm going to turn this slide and some of the other information to follow over to Susie, because of her experience in the convention and visitor business, she's going to be able to tell you a little bit more about some of the past studies that Wichita has done and how we're going to build on that experience.
Thanks, Gary. Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here this evening. And this is just a really exciting time. When you think about it, we talk about it as once in about 100-year opportunity of riverfront prime real estate in the heart of the city, in the heart of the region. And I think what's so important is when we talk to people even outside of Wichita, they view that as their downtown. And so this opportunity to kind of, dream big. And as Gary talked about, this is for our kids, and brought my daughter Sophia with me tonight, for our kids and their kids. And when we think about it, it's even bigger than the land. We talk a lot about how do we attract talent and how do we retain talent to Wichita. And as cities across the U.S. are facing that, we know, it's a lot of times it comes down to that quality of place. And so this piece of property is important for so many reasons. And we were thrilled, like Gary at the Chamber, to jump on and be a part of this, really allowing all of us to dream. Some of our guiding principles in this project were this is a long term. This is a vision. We wanted it to be very transparent and a lot of engagement. And so Gary and I are the lucky ones that got to chat with you tonight, but our colleagues are meeting with all the DABs and looking at opportunities to share and engage. So as Gary said, part of this is building on all the work that's been done. So this gives you a little snapshot from the fall of '03, the first study that we did, and we started this with really an economic assessment of Century 2 from a convention perspective. Because in a way, it might be the right facility if there was no other demand. But what we found is that we're leaving tens of millions of dollars on the table every year by not having a convention facility that meets today's needs. So that started back in the fall. But from then until February now, February 19, we've had lots of other great studies. We came back in, evaluated the performing arts. What were their needs? We engaged Populous. I'm going to talk about them in a moment to look at some conceptual designs. We came back this past year with the Citizens Advisory Group. You may remember the group that studied it for a year, the performing arts piece of it. So there have been lots of touch points. And really, we felt this master plan is really important to build on all the work. So this is not another study. This is now about creating an action plan for our future and creating a way that allows us all to dream big, but also based in the realities of our market. So we re-engaged the team Populous. Populous is an international design firm. They're actually located in Kansas City, but they have worked actually all over the world. And with them, they've engaged Olin as well as RCL Co. down at the bottom. And RCL Co. is real estate advisors. And that's important because we want to look at what else can we do to be an economic driver for the city. What else should be on this land? Because when you think of that big piece of property, that's a large piece of property. So really looking at it from, what is going to be from that quality of place, but also what's going to drive that economic stimulus back into the city. We started, Gary, what was the date on that? Just about a month ago.
I think it was July 31st.
July 31st was our first kickoff of this, and it was at the Boathouse. And it's kind of like you throw a party and you have no idea how many people are going to come or if anybody shows up. So we were thrilled to walk into the Boathouse and have it be a standing room only, We've set chairs for almost 400, I believe, and they were full, and those of you that were there, they were standing room everywhere. So we were really excited. But this was really about launching it. And the one thing that as I watched it, we came out of that, we've got to make sure that we give opportunities to engage. We really want to hear from everyone. We want to build on all the research that's done, but also want to hear from all of us, because this is no one organization, not one person's plan, this is the community. So we started at the boathouse, and again, everything from, you know, game, and you got to move the pieces to see how you would design it, but also a lot of notes. And there you have the boathouse. So you can tell it was, I think Councilmember Claycomb, you were there. Did I see you there?
No,
No,
I was out of town.
You could have just said yes.
I know I could have.
I felt like you were there.
I kept tabs on it.
You kept tabs. But it was really a great turnout. So where are we in this process, and where do we go from here? I think it's important to note that when we think about community engagement, Project Wichita, when we heard from 14,000 Wichitans, that really was a huge opportunity of engagement. So this is not just starting on the 31st. This started with Project Wichita. And one of the things that came out loud and clear in that study was the real desire to have open space, green space, a place to come together. And it's interesting because when we look at that data, WSU did a heck of a job. They can slice and dice it and look at it every which way. But that was pretty much against about all, you know, from the millennials to, you know, all groups and ages and parts of the city. That was a real, you know, strong desire. So this is a continuation of the work. And even before then, those of you that have been around know Project Downtown, which was, gosh, 10 years ago? Was that like 09, like 10, 8, 9? You know, that was that first process of really creating the master plan downtown. And in the master plan, this whole area was a catalyst site. You know, this was an area that was up further. So this was a continuation. Project Wichita spoke to some of the needs from performing arts, a convention, open space. We kicked it off on the 31st. So where we go from here? The 24th and 25th of September, Gary's passing around some cards that will have this dates for you. We've got a lot of these. If there's any place that you would like to distribute these. On the 24th and 25th over at C2, we're doing what we call urban explorations. Populace will be here. The times are on there, and there'll be 4 different tours where we're inviting the public to come. There'll be about a 45-minute tour where we'll show you. You'll hear from the music theater perspective, or the performing arts perspective. You'll hear about conventions. You'll kind of walk the space. You'll find out kind of how it is or is not positioned with the river. And that's the other thing that came out in spades on Project Wichita, engaging the river. You heard that in spades. Then we're going to end each tour with really an open mic and an opportunity for anybody that has their thoughts or perspectives to share. Populace will be there if you have questions, to have one-on-one, or share your thoughts on Century 2. So again, we're gaining input. So that will go on in September. Then we come back on October 14th and October 17th. This is when Populace will be back, and again, this is open to the public, and we'll talk about what they've learned from all of the research. So they've compiled all the research, what they've heard from the comments, what they're beginning to start, what some of their key findings. And again, an opportunity to share, ask questions, share your thoughts. Then we come back on November 14th. And based on what they've shared on the 17th and what they've heard throughout this process, on the 14th, we'll begin to see some designs, some concepts. What does that space look like? That's going to be fun. Look at it. So again, we'll have more input, we'll have more comments. Then the idea is they'll take the feedback. And a lot of times what they tell us is it's when you have these scenarios, it's a little bit of this or that. We like this from this and this design from over here. We'll continue to hear from everyone. And then coming back in January, this final plan. And then our hopes is to take it to both the city and the county and ask them to adopt it. And then we start the plan of, you know, how do we go into an implementation phase. Part of this process too is funding. How are you going to fund it? So we've asked them to come back and give us ideas on how to fund it. So all of that is being incorporated from learning from all the studies that we've done, the experts that are going to be at the table to help us really visualize the engagement with the public. What do Wichitans, what do we want down there? and then bring it back together with a plan to move it forward. So I think, again, this is a once in 100-year opportunity. We're thrilled to be a part of it. But again, it's real important to be able to have an opportunity to share with you and help everyone understand how to get involved. So again, each of the phases, and then when we look at sharing your vision, you've got that on your little handout, all the areas and opportunities and ways to get involved. And again, stay connected. So right now, our website, we are hearing from folks who rate comments, give suggestions. Populace has been getting letters, phone calls, emails. It's fun to see what they're getting. If you've seen the blue shipping containers down in front of Century 2 over the weekend, they had about 60, 75 people share their thoughts, jumped in the first Friday night activity. That will be out there all the month of September. So we have the Open Roads coming up, another opportunity. We engage about every week, activated out there. So we've got social media. We are looking for ways to reach far beyond each of our organizations. We're a good start in reaching, but we really want to get this out. And so if you have folks, if you have areas of opportunities to pass that out, or questions, feel free to call Gary, me, any of us on the coalition. And that's what we're doing. So we're pretty excited about it. And thank you to Councilmember Claycomb and the city for participating. It's really fun to see this private-public partnership, but all of us coming together and think about how do we move the city and look beyond the next 5 or 10 years. This is for our kids and grandkids. So we're happy to answer any questions you might have, or
So let's do questions from the board, and then we'll go out to the audience in just a minute too. But anything from the board? Any questions you guys have?
Not without going into the weeds.
Yeah, you're talking about this being a once in 100-year opportunity. I'm looking at Century 2, and I'm thinking about the building that replaced the Forum. The Forum was over 50 years old, less than 60. Century 2 is over 50 years old, less than 60. Both of them are buildings that were built to house different types of events. What are we going to do different this time?
Yeah.
That Century 2 is going to be gone like the Forum was. Are we going to take the same approach? Is it going to be, can't be the same approach because we've got an arena downtown now. What are we looking at if we're looking at replacing Century 2? Is it going to be a multifunctional building, or are we going to have separate buildings?
Yeah.
And what's going to happen to the library, which in my opinion is a more architectural significant building than Century 2 plan?
All the questions that you're asking are exactly what we're asking. What do we need to do to set the future? And so when we look at it from a convention perspective, just on that piece of it, Bob Brown, the needs have changed so much. And it's interesting, even in the last decade, changing how people meet, because you guys go to conferences, is so different. So what's important is that we take all of those key learnings that we know into consideration. But we can tell you that the configuration right now from the joint, there are challenges. And when we heard from the performing arts, from the building of the performing arts piece of it, as well as convention, it doesn't work as a multi-purpose building. What does that mean? That's what we're looking for Populace to help us design. How do you best use that entire space and ask those questions? So I don't have the answers today, but this is all part of the process. So we encourage everyone to share those thoughts. And those are all things that we've had in our discussions. That's exactly, the roundup we have to figure that out. This is the time to figure that out. We know it has challenges. Is there another use for it? Don't know. That's all going to come out in this process when we really map it out. I can speak a lot on convention space. And I can tell you that when we look at the delta of what we're losing in millions of dollars of revenue by not having a space that meets today's needs, it's tough. It's really tough when we look at our competitors. And even you don't have to look far. Omaha, Des Moines, Tulsa, Oklahoma City, Overland Park, all in the last 20 years even have done amazing things. And you've got OKC down the street, what they're doing. So it puts us at a competitive disadvantage. So great questions.
We're looking at separate buildings. I mean, convention center is not a multi-purpose.
That's correct. Yeah, it's
What's going to happen
yeah.
to the businesses that use Century 2, like the homeowners association? we got exhibit hall, we got convention center, we've got a library that's open. We've got the boondoggle known as Gander Mountain.
King of Freight, King of Freight,
King of Freight.
It's going in there.
So it's not,
off the building, yeah.
Yeah, and I think that what's important is looking at it from a data perspective, right? What can we drive in that's gonna drive those dollars, but looking at the functionality of the buildings. And I think the Citizens Advisory Group last year did a heck of a job studying the Brown building from a performing arts perspective. And it was fascinating. Even, I feel like I've studied it, but I learned so much even from their presentation and their key learnings. And if you've ever had the opportunity to hear Mary Beth speak about it, and I think she knows that building better than anybody right now. But from the rafters to the basement and the challenges of that building, and I'm sure all of you perhaps know that, and if not, I'm always happy to share it and chat further with you. But that's exactly from what we do know from sharing that space from a convention need, from a performing arts. You get to speak to anybody. It wasn't designed for how we used it. And even was chatting with the gentleman with the organ last week, and that's a whole nother, right? You can't play the organ because you hear it everywhere. So there's sound, and there's a lot of factors that make that round challenging. But you brought up great questions, and that is what this process is about. How do we bring all these questions that we've had into a plan that we can wrap our arms around that's going to move us forward? Gary, do you have any?
No, you summed that up very well. You should have written our scope of services. Because that's exactly what we're going to be doing. This-
Right.
So how is all that land looked at? Is that all city land or is it private, something private? Everything in the blue area?
So most, whoops.
Oh, sorry. I was gonna hand you the thing.
Most of this property south of Waterman is privately owned and controlled. Most of the stuff north, except for the Hyatt, I think there's a project up there in the top right-hand corner, an office building. Most of that is publicly owned. So the master plan will address both public and private development, what would make the best use out of that site, and what would make the most economic sense, and what the market would really support, not a pie in the sky sort of thing.
And am I correct? I think the Hyatt and Waterwalk, they're involved in this process.
Yes.
They are. They are.
Do we want to look at the arena and see what it will be containing so that we're not duplicating, I mean, so that we can share the resources?
Yeah.
I'm not sure what I'm trying to say, but
Yeah.
it
Yeah,
seems
synergy.
like we don't want to duplicate here what they're doing over there. We want to make it agreeable.
Yeah, and we have an outstanding, obviously, relationship with the arena, and the arena and Century 2 work well together as well. And it's interesting, there's not that much crossover when you think about it. And so when we think about the performing arts need and what's defined in that scope of what they need, and the convention center, there's not a lot of back and forth. But again, they are absolutely involved, and the AJ, who had arena, actually sits on our board, so we talk all the time about how do you best leverage what they have and leverage what the city has, so that Wichita wins. And if something comes to him now that he's not able, he's reaching out to the city and vice versa. So you do see that synergy today. But that's an important fact, because you don't, whatever you create, it's down the road.
We don't want competition. We want to-
That's what we're doing. Yeah, absolutely.
A question? In view of transparency, who were the private sectors that donated to this?
Hyatt and Mr. Blue,
I
yes.
didn't hear.
Yes, the private folks that contributed some, which was the Hyatt and,
And Waterwalk.
Yeah.
Waterwalk?
Yeah, Jack DeBoer's group.
And is that it?
and the Kansas leadership. They did, and they did as well, which was great, and they came on board really with wanting to help us with community engagement, how do you get more people involved, and also the Knight Foundation, the Blue Railroad, the Knight Foundation helped fund that, again, about community engagement.
So other than city and county government and those private owners, the rest of the investment came from the nonprofit sector, organizations like ours.
Any other questions from the board? Okay, we're gonna open up to the audience. Oh, sorry. One more?
Is there any, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Is there any consideration for any of that area in terms of kids, things, kids, children? I know you talked about the money.
You know, and again, I'm not sure what all they're thinking on that. I know that what we heard in the master plan was an open space to be used by everybody, young and old. And we think about a green space to come together that can be a gathering place. That came out high. So how you activate that and what that looks like and all that, I think would be absolutely, and then activating the river. Part of all of this is about activation of the river. And I think what's amazing now is when you've got what's happening on the West Bank and that whole ability to bring that area, then I think we're looking for something for all ages that brings people down there.
I have one more question. How do you determine the millions of dollars that you say we're losing?
Yeah.
How is that determined?
You know, that was our very first day when back in 13, because it's on side note, when I interviewed for this role, they asked me about the facility, if I had any opinion on it. And I said, you know, it may be the perfect facility if that's what, to my mind, because I'm about dollars and cents, it may be perfect if that's what the demand is for your city. But when we went out and we hired CSNL, who is a leader in this and has worked with cities all over the country, we really hired them to go out and find Wichita, not some other city. So they went out and interviewed and did a demand analysis on who would come if we had the facilities. And that's that first study. And that whole study is, all of these are on the city website. But it's really talks about the demand. And again, it comes down to having the right industry standard facilities. And it's more than pretty building. It's a whole different way of you know, the needs for today's needs.
The functionality of the building.
So there's a demand analysis.
Yeah, it's an economic analysis. It's a very,
They call demand or
yeah, I'll show you. It's on that first chart, the exact name of it when you, if you want to.
Whoops, I'm not very good at
That's
this.
okay. Keep going. A few more slides. If you could. Didn't make these for you. Couple more. There you go. One more. Okay, the first one, the CSNL Phase 1 Market and Economic Assessment is the actual name of it.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. Okay, thank you.
When you're looking for something to read at night, why not? You know,
Sure.
All right, I'm going to open it up to the audience.
My question was about the Orpheum restoration. I know that's been a big challenge. Is there any talk about putting that in as part of the big picture? I mean, have they been involved at all?
You know, that's a great question. Back when AMS was involved back in 14, and AMS is a leader in the performing arts study. When they were determining the scope of work that's right for Wichita, they looked at all the facilities in Wichita to determine you don't want to build something that you have right down here. So their scope and their recommendation on the size and the number of seats is based on what Wichita has to offer. So that's where they feel really comfortable that the recommendation of performing arts, including those of you that know a lot about performing arts and Wayne Bryant and the scene shop and all of that stuff is included is one piece of it. On the other side, there's a lot of question about the funding and the need for the, it's interesting, we haven't talked about funding from it, but I know that's private.
Yeah.
And this is public land, so that's all kind of another conversation. Yeah. But from a duplicating efforts, that has been taken into consideration in the recommendation of what the performing arts.
Yeah, I think you need the big performing arts, but getting that facility up to date at that size would be a great piece as well.
Yeah, that's a whole thing, right? And that's a great point, and
Goes back to this lady's point about interest. We don't want to duplicate.
Right. Yeah, don't want to duplicate the
what they have at the Orpheum.
Any other questions from the audience?
Go ahead.
No.
Okay. I know you said the data was available on the website of doing the compare and contrast of the business that we're using regarding conventions here in Wichita, but what facilities are comparable that you look at in other places, let's say Omaha or Kansas City or elsewhere? What are we really lacking? Like, can you be case specific about what these facilities are lacking that we don't have now, but these other ones do have?
Yeah, right off the bat, you can't subdivide. So on the real simplistic, when you look at when we try to sell it, we with 200,000 square feet of contiguous space. But when you look at that, we really don't. If you think of Bob Brown, that's 90,000 square feet. But 30,000 of it is underneath the underhang. And in this world, that's considered kind of like less desirable place because nobody wants to be under the underhang. So now you think we have 60,000 square feet, where we really believe for our market size, we should have 150,000 square feet. You also can't subdivide it. So what happens, I have a group coming in that only needs 30, 40,000 square feet, and I can't sell the other space of it. So we have to turn business away. So we're losing business because we can't subdivide it. Our four-plate grid and our electrical pattern makes it difficult. We've got lack of pre-function meeting space. In today's world, they meet very different. Think more of like an event meeting where you have this combination kind of more open space because so much of it pre-function space of it.
In order to have like booths essentially and things like that, in order to keep a wide open essentially.
So I'll tell you, we get people, it's interesting when you're out selling Wichita because sometimes the first thing is Wichita and they don't have a positive or negative, just kind of neutral. But I think the team, both at Century 2 and our office, does a great job of getting people here. We get them here on a site visit, they fall in love with Wichita. But I'll be honest, where we lose them is when we walk into the facility. Because it so underperforms any of our competitors in the region, let alone on a broader scale. So when you think about right now, how we try to sell it is we try to sell this 90,000, the foyer, and then you all know the round part. So we try to get people in and say, you need 150,000 square feet, we're gonna put 90 here, and then we're gonna put 20 in the foyer, and then we're gonna move you on over here. So you got somebody at Expo, with a booth, and somebody over here, and that's not how meeting planners want to do it. They want to be able to walk in and see in a contiguous space. So those are some basic, challenges that we continue with, but there's a whole long list of what would be considered industry standard, even from loading. Our loaded isn't adequate to what they need in today's market. So hopefully that gives you just a flavor of some of the challenges.
And one more question.
Yeah.
For the purpose of my question, Janet, can you cross out one slide? Okay. So you said you earned or raised about $800,000 to do the master plan. And I see a bunch of firms represented up there, none of which I believe are local in Wichita.
Right.
So of that $800,000, $200,000 actually comes from the residents of Wichita and Central County. So how much of that money will be driven towards local firms and organizations?
Well,
instead of going out of the community.
And I get that, I understand that, but I'll tell you that, well, let me break down the first question, because of that 800, let's see, roughly 8, we are spending some dollars on, engagement and marketing, and those are spent locally, and I'm so sorry, I don't have that number, but there is dollars being spent. But the vast majority, you're right, is going to Populous, the lead agency, and the other agencies. So there is not, when we engaged Populous originally, they partnered with GLNB locally, and that was that partnership on the first 2 or 3 years ago. Well, like it's about 15 when Populous came on. But where we are right now on a master plan is when we've looked at the expertise, and sometimes they are not coming with their idea. They're not coming with their idea in mind. They're coming with reading all the data and hearing. And I will tell you that sometimes when you don't have a dog in the hunt, it's a different. I know you're talking about engaging local, but they're going to come with the perspective of what they've done all over the world. They're leaders in this, and they want to hear and they want to read without an opinion. If that makes sense. Now, again, this is a master plan. This is not an architect who's going to design the building or build the building. This is just the planning of it. Similar to when we did the downtown master plan, we brought in, I'm going to drop line who they are.
Goody plans?
Goody plans. Leaders in the building, and we've re-engaged them throughout the process because their expertise really is, and that's been really helpful because they're not in it and they're able to see globally, but they come back in and help us plan. So I think it's important to know this is just the plan.
Just to help a little bit on that, this design team
Yeah.
is costing about $650,000 combined. There's actually 3 firms on that. It's pretty right there. The local engagement process is being led by a Wichita-based firm, and we're investing about $150,000 in that part.
But just on a side note, though, Todd, who lives in Kansas City, so he's not local, but his first concert he ever went to was at Century 2, and he grew up in Hutch. So he does have, an affinity to the area. His brother is very involved in the community and lives here. So there is an affinity, but again, he is in Kansas City.
And I think also on just kind of a small basis, when these folks are in town, they stay in our hotels, they eat at our restaurants, they, you know, so while it's not the 800,000, it's, part of that is coming back to the community when the teams are here. Yeah. Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, I'll bring it back to the board. Anything else?
Oh, sure.
I take it this is more that encounters or takes into account conventions as well as the arts. Because I saw the timeline, and that was primarily for the arts. And then when I listened to the gentleman's question, it was more with respect to conventions. So that was a switch for me. So am I articulating that correctly? It's for both of them?
This master plan?
Mhm.
Absolutely,
Okay.
yeah. It's bringing it all together. You're thinking of it from the tenants and the needs, the whole area, and what else.
It's both. It's both. And and is that kind of the over umbrella, the arch of it that people are trying to look at, is that we need to figure out how these two needs get served?
Yeah. Those two functions are what's really driving that area right now and making the economic impact. So we're trying to look at how we can maximize that.
So
Both
was
of
it,
those functions.
so was it ever looked at as to splitting one off to another location? I mean, with respect, example, land at Wichita State University for performing arts and this land downtown for convention centers.
Yes, and I don't know, again, we haven't seen what they're gonna come back with, but I can tell you that, the 15 when Populous was first back engaged in 15, in one of those studies, we did look at, is there another location? When you looked at, kind of potential synergies, not in the same building, but potentially sharing some function, whether it's even as simple as parking or services, there seemed to be more, and there's creating a density and creating, activity, because when I'll call it a convention center or event center or whatever we want to call it, when that building's not activated and perhaps the performing arts is, it allows for more activation. And so the general thought is that kids
We're keeping it at a high level.
kind of keep it at a high level, but again, they're taking this all in and they're looking at the land and they're gonna come back with how does it actually work, so.
Okay, fair
That's,
enough. That's good enough.
Anything else? I have just a couple of comments. One is the public engagement is really important because it is true that the coalition members and this team are listening. And this is not about, we're coming in with, here's what we ought to do. It's very much listening. But if you're not engaged, then they won't hear it. So those two urban exploration days are really important. I'm going to try to make it to as many of those as I can just to hear myself what people are saying. The Legacy Lounge that Susie talked about, the 2 shipping containers out on Kennedy Plaza, even though they're activating those, I think once a week or something, I think you can stop by any time and drop off a suggestion, a question, a comment in one. I think there must be a little slit, right, in one of those shipping containers. And then the coalition meetings are open. And, well, they're not, you can't go and speak at those, but if you want to know what this coalition board is doing, you can go. Their meetings are open to the public, so.
Typically the last Monday of each month at 4 o'clock.
the next
And you
one,
can go to the website to find out the location because we're moving it around at different partners.
And then I think one last thing is that if there's, so we want to make sure that we get voices that sometimes aren't engaged in this. And I would guess that if there was some group that was, that we wanted a presentation to, you guys would be happy, someone from the coalition would be
Yes.
happy to do that. So if you know of a group that you think ought to hear about this, certainly let me know or get hold of anybody on the coalition.
Thank you.
thank you for that. And there's a lot of steps along. Right now, it's just educating. Then there's going to be about what have we learned. And there's even when we get the designs. Here they are. What do you think? So there's lots of opportunities if you feel there's some place that would be beneficial for us to check.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for allowing us to come
Thank
and
you
talk
very
to
much,
you.
Councilman.
Really appreciate it.
Nitty-gritty life, like 2 or 100?
Yeah,
Okay.
if you want to leave those with us, we'll.
Oh, yeah, I'll just leave them and,
I mean, for
Yeah.
civic engagement.
thank you.
Yeah, yes, absolutely.
Thanks.
All right, okay, I think we are now ready for our zoning case, and Matt is here with us.
Yes. Good evening, Matt Williams. I'm an associate planner in the planning department. We just have one case tonight. It is conditional use 2019-32. The applicant is requesting a conditional use to allow self-service storage on property zone DO, Delano overlay, and general commercial at 1642 West Douglas. So this is along Douglas. It's just northeast of the railroad track, which is just north of San Diego. The applicant has indicated on his site plan that they intend for a 2-phase project. Phase 1 would include remodeling the current building at 1642 into climate-controlled self-storage. And then phase 2 would include constructing 56 storage spaces, replacing the unused parking on the site, and enclosing that and putting a covered loading area, and then also remodeling another building at 122 Millwood into climate-controlled storage. This area is unique because it has a Delano overlay, which is pretty unique to the city. There are certain design standards that have to be abided by. The guidelines are there to ensure that the alterations are respectful of the character of the neighborhood. Looking at the site plan that's been provided, certain guidelines relating to moving windows along Douglas and Millwood, the layout of the storage units, the yellow design features, and metal siding of the storage units are not in compliance with that design guidelines. So staff and the planning commission recommended approval of this project as long as it applied with those guidelines. But they also put in a stipulation that if the Delano Design Advisory Committee approves the look, then it could be approved. So there's a special design advisory committee that the project will go ahead of, and they'll look at the design of it, and if they okay the design, then it'll be good. That meeting is going to be this Thursday, and the planning commission has already voted on that last week, and was tentative to approve it. And then I think there's some years.
And I'll mention, I asked about this, why usually DAB sees these before MAPC. We moved our meeting a week because of the Labor Day holiday. So that is why we didn't see it before then. Questions for Matt or the applicant? And here's some color pictures.
Yes.
You guys got those? Okay. So they're over there. Okay.
No, they don't have these.
Do you have these big ones?
They haven't seen those.
Look, let me see those. Let me take this. So anything from the board before we go out? Kim? Questions?
When is the design group in Delano going to be looking at this?
They're going to be looking at it at Thursday at 3.
This coming Thursday?
Yep.
What would it take for the storage units to get in compliance as far as materials?
Do you have the image up there?
You got that.
So you, these are the
But I take it we're talking about these storage units that are around.
Yeah,
the other.
and again, the owner is here. The storage units along the railroad, which it seems like they're along the railroad, not big of a deal, but it's very visible on Douglas. The design overlay says that buildings that face Douglas can't be metal, and those are proposed to be metal right now.
So,
Metal side.
so would EFS satisfy the design?
Yeah,
criteria?
EFS stone, yeah. There, we have several different examples of storage units in town that have been built like that.
Right,
Wood siding,
right. Okay, so
cardboard siding.
it would be out of the ordinary than what we see in current storage units in regards to EFS on the walls.
On the exterior wall, yeah. facing Douglas, yeah.
What are they going to do? They're going to close all the windows, I suppose, for security reasons, what they're going to say along Douglas and Melville. Which I can understand, but they've got an overlay district here too. Right? So would the council want to get a chance to see anything that they would suggest?
The recommendation out of the advisory committee can be appealed to city council.
So, well, council will know Thursday whether the Delano design group approves what's being proposed or whether they go with staff's recommendation. Correct. Now, the windows as they're placed now, the current structure, the structure on Douglas Millwood, the first one, up to the frontage, those windows do comply with design standards.
So that,
A pedestrian-friendly type window, I guess.
mm-hmm.
The current windows.
Yes, yes, those, yes. Yeah, we would like to, because, you know, the vision of the Delano neighborhood is to be pedestrian friendly, you know, those pedestrian friendly windows along Douglas especially are very important.
So let's use the applicants here so we can.
And again, the conditional use is just for the use of the building.
But the use of the building itself has to comply with the design standards and the overlay. Correct. It's got the zone GC, which allows self-storage by right, but the overlay's got some design standards.
Well, the overlay requires a conditional use for self-storage, and they got that approved. So now they're just looking at the design.
So the overlay kind of acts like, I mean, LC zoning allows self-storage warehouse also, but you've got design standards for that. Quite a list of standards. Right. That you got. So the GC loosens it up by placement and layout, kind of brings that. Well, we've got the design standards.
More strict design standards.
Okay. It'd be nice, I think, if the council could see more than what you're seeing here.
Yeah, they can see what.
See more than what we're seeing here. We've got a proposal, but what would look like if it was approved.
Well,
And
this
written
is
up by
their
staff,
rendering.
as written out by staff.
Oh, yeah.
No, I see. Yeah.
If I had the design, I don't have to do that.
But yeah, we're looking at something that's not approved by staff right now. Correct. Because it doesn't be designed. Okay.
So we have to wait till they get the design committee on Thursday, and then we'll know if it needs design.
Right.
And that design committee could approve as they shown.
Other questions? Oh, sorry.
But not that I'm saying that the council member would be this, but if you wanted to, she could make an appeal of the conditional use to have it board the city council. Or if you, this is hypothetical. This is not saying she would do this. But if you wanted to say, if she didn't agree with the design team's recommendation to approve as presented, and went with staff recommendation, then it would go to city council.
No, it wouldn't go to city council.
She could appeal it though to go to council for final action.
The council member?
Yeah.
Never heard of that happening. If it doesn't go to city council, I'm not sure.
Yeah, will this come, so you're saying this one won't come to city council?
No, the use doesn't. Conditional uses don't go unless they've been appealed. And the design of the design advisory committee is final unless the applicant were to appeal.
Do you mean when they're final, that there's no additional public hearing and it'll be on consent agenda? Or do you mean it won't be on our agenda?
Right.
It'll come on our
So
agenda.
you're saying the design committee can the planning commission approved as written out.
Correct.
So their recommendation would override the planning commission's recommendation approved as staff recommends?
No, they don't have any say over the design of it. So they recommended approval of the use.
For staff recommendation.
For staff recommendation, and the recommendation is that the site must adhere to the design guidelines unless okayed by the design review committee.
Unless okay.
Right.
The design committee's they've got final say over the planning commission recommendation.
For the design of it, only the design.
Not for the use.
So you're saying the city, the council woman could appeal the design committee's
I'm saying the
recommendation?
applicant definitely could design if they were not happy with what the design advisory committee recommended. If they thought it was too strict, then they could appeal that to city council.
Or they think it's. I just want to know if the council person could have a chance to override the design committee if they.
Doesn't sound like it.
I don't believe so. It's never come to that. I'll look into it tomorrow night.
Usually things don't get that far, I don't think.
Yeah.
Just play it out as far as you can.
Other questions for Matt or for the applicant?
I noticed there were services
public services in the second building, are they moving?
I think Mr. Roper can speak to that.
That's a possibility after the turn of the year, still negotiating back and forth on that.
Okay.
So that would be the phase that would start sometime really probably spring if they should decide to relocate and decide to store.
First thing you did is the front building.
Right, I've been trying to find something that would coexist well with them. And then for future, if they should ever leave, that would make sense to move into.
Thank you. And I think, Mr. Ripple, can you state your name and for just for the
Scott
record?
Riffle, member treasurer of Vista Property Management that currently owns that property.
Thank you. Thanks. Anything else? Any other questions from the audience? Anything? No? Okay, I'll bring it back to the board for comments or motion. Motion. What is the motion, Greg?
To approve staff recommendation.
Second? Moved and seconded. Any additional questions or comments? All in favor, please say aye. All opposed, same sign. Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Mr. Rucker, for joining us this evening. All right, issues of concern. Anything from Dad? Things that we talked about last time, did they get taken care of? And some free issues? One path?
Oh, yeah,
Okay.
Public Works was
All
there,
right,
there
gotcha.
on the north side of that.
And we got that hanging dungeon taken care of. That was
They left the wig.
yeah, that
Left
was really weird. So too bad Officer Tato was here to tell us about that too. So
I would like to publicly thank the forestry for all the trees they've been planting along the area.
isn't that nice?
Oh, yeah.
It is. Yeah, it's really nice. Any other issues of concern? Neighborhood reports? Anything going on in your neighborhoods you gotta know about? Any parties or anything?
I'm having a Hispanic Heritage Festival in Old Town.
Oh, really?
Do you have a what?
Hispanic Heritage Festival,
When is it?
September 28th.
September 29th? 28th?
In front of the Warren, the Old Town Plaza. On the bridge from Kansas City, Oklahoma, to dance culturally. Peru, Colombia, Puerto Rico.
Oh, really?
It's like a cultural showcase.
Yeah, right out in the Old Town Square.
How many people are coming from these different places?
They're dance groups, they're like folkloric dance groups, but I have a Colombian group, a Puerto Rican group, Colombian group, another Mexican group. Okay. So they have 8 to 22 dancers.
Wow.
And then a salsa green.
What time is that?
From 1 to 10.
And is it somewhere on a Facebook page or something where we could pull that information?
Wichita Hispanic Heritage Festival.
Spanish.
September 28th.
Festivals, we can help promote that on the.
We have Secretary of Labor, Delia Garcia, coming to speak to.
Nice. All right, thank you. All right, anything else? Okay, I have a couple things, couple zoning cases that you guys approved both of these. One was on North Doris, the intersection of Central and Hoover, single family to 2-family duplexes. You guys approved it 6-0, or recommended approval. City Council heard it, and it was approved on consent agenda 7-0. And then we had one at West 13th Street, half mile east of West Street. Again, this was the single family to to commercial, and recommended action on this board was 6-0. Council approved it 7-0 on consent. So those are the only two we've heard.
In the future, we can have all duplexes and storage
We
everywhere.
can,
Yeah.
we can.
The whole city. will
Yeah,
have
sometimes with
storage and
infill,
duplex.
sometimes with infill, right? That's what you get. So.
There for a while, it was, we were hearing duplexes, now we're hearing storage
Storage.
units.
Yes, that's right. That's right. Let's see, and the only other thing, I'll see you guys before this, but our district coffee on September 28th, 9 a.m. to 10:30. Troy Hauptman, Director of Parks, will be there. And so if you're interested in hearing about all the cool stuff they're doing in Parks and Rec, that's a great thing. We named the new Bobcat last week, so Riverside Zoo, you know, the Kansas Wildlife, whatever, but Riverside Zoo got a new baby Bobcat. His name is Rufus. He is darling. His mother was killed and he was rescued. And so he can't be, you know, sent out into the wild because he's too little. So he's over there taking the place of Bobby. So if you want to go by and see him, he's kind of in and out right now because he's little, so he can't stay out there all the time by himself. But some parts of the day he is out there. So stop by and see him. Yes, the kids at Riverside Elementary in Riverside were instrumental in naming him.
Oh,
And
really?
they came over for the naming ceremony and all that. That's right. All right, I think, anything else for the good of the order? I think we are adjourned then. Let's see, our next meeting is, we do have a mid-month meeting. It's quicker than usual because this one was later, so September 18th, and we do have at least one zoning case, maybe two. We'll see you then. Get out of here, not too bad. If we can get out of here and it's not true.